Just to close off this round of tributes and remembrance messages, Rev Moss Ntlha, on behalf of the Defend Our Democracy movement, over to you.
I have been given 4 minutes, and I'm a reverend, supposed to talk about an icon in all of 4 minutes. But I'm very thankful that it is not as daunting a task as it is for politicians, because they are given, 8 minutes? Because they have a hard job to do. South Africans are, the confidence that South Africans have in politicians of all sorts is at an all-time low. And so they have to work that much harder. And so I can only offer to pray for them, all of them, and ask God to help them. And I know it must be a challenge even for God to help them. But let me read the text that I have before me in tribute to Uncle Kathy, and to also thank, obviously, the AKF, Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, for creating this moment for us to be able to go back in history and to think about what is important to us as a people in order to construct together a future that we can be proud of, and that they, the previous generation, can be proud of. 7 years ago to the day, the country woke up to the news that one of the foremost revolutionaries had passed away. However, in the days of mourning that followed Ahmed Kathrada's death, the country was wracked with instability due to the sudden sacking of the then Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan and his deputy, Mcebisi Jonas. 7 years ago, almost to the day, South Africa had finally woken up to the news that our country was being well and truly captured. The alarm bells of which were sounded by Kathrada himself in his famous open letter a year before. We must be deeply grateful for the efforts of civil society, of some within the political arena, of our judiciary, the media, and members of the public who refused to allow the state to collapse under the sheer weight of corruption and state capture. While we did not manage to put an ultimate end to the scourge of after Kathrada's passing, we ensured that the wholesale ransacking of state was prevented. We thought that the worst was over. Yet 4 years after Kathrada's death, in 2021, the country was again brought to its knees. This time, the instability manifested in defiance to the Constitution, or to the Constitutional Court, in inciting social media messages and a breakdown of law and order in KwaZulu-Natal and parts of Gauteng. Despite the slow-footed approach of law enforcement, we still managed to pull back from the brink. And now, 3 years on, as we stand on the cusp of what will be the most contested election since the dawn of democracy, we are already starting to hear some disturbing murmurings. Who is it that even before the elections has kicked off is threatening the IEC? Who is it that is threatening chaos if they do not receive 2/3 majority? Why is it that once again it appears to be sinister forces rooted in a particular part of our country who are threatening instability if things do not go their way. In 2021, some of these forces conveniently hid behind the mask of social media and the smoke from the arson attacks following the looting sprees. However, in 2024, the threats are being made far more openly in public and in particular parties' political platforms. South Africa has had free and fair elections carried out by the IEC since 1994, and we must ensure that it stays that way. We call on law enforcement agencies to act now against anyone putting forward narratives that seek to pivot this country to a point of no return. We will not accept piteous excuses that were proffered by law enforcement in July 2021 about why they were caught flat-footed. Labor movements, business, faith and civic leaders must once again stand united against any attempt to undermine democracy or democratic processes. Like before, and as displayed by the example of Kathrada, and by the way, I must say that the reason I'm wearing this scarf is not to irritate any of you who don't like it, but to signal simply that this is also something very close to Ahmed Kathrada's heart. This requires a certain courage to speak out and the ability to work across ideological lines. Over the next few weeks, as we mark Easter, Eid, Pesach, and the Hindu New Year, and political parties seek platforms at our religious gatherings, we must ensure that they do not use these platforms to promote narratives that undermine democracy. In fact, we should ensure that our religious platforms are used to call out these dangerous narratives. We call on all political parties and their supporters to act within the electoral code of conduct. Elections are meant to be fiercely contested, but it does not give political parties the license to act against the law. The test of true political leadership in this period will be the extent to which the politicians and political parties are able to put the interests of the country first. Putting the country first means not undermining the IEC, not discrediting the elections and electoral processes without any reliable evidence. It means not writing letters to other governments asking them to intervene in our country. And it means taking any genuine concerns about the election to the appropriate structures to be investigated. To the ordinary South African, we ask you to become an election observer. We are running a politically non-partisan campaign to get South Africans to observe the elections. Through your presence at a voting station, you can help to ensure the integrity of this election. Be an active citizen. Guard your own democracy by becoming an election observer under the Election Watch campaign, details of which can be found on the Defend Our Democracy social media pages. In his eulogy to Kathrada 7 years ago, here at West Park Cemetery, former President Ahmed Kathrada said, "Today is a day on which we close the eyes of Comrade Ahmed Kathrada permanently. Because during his lifetime, he opened our eyes forever and saved us from the blindness of the heart. In this subversive act of opening our eyes, He made us believe in our inherent ability to create a totally new order of reality. 7 years later, we must ask ourselves if our eyes have remained open, and if we are prepared to keep them open through 2024 and beyond to defend our democracy. I thank you.